Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. Look, y'all, I tried. I tried to be here on time. I even pushed the time back, and life was lifing. Everything was colluding for Mr. Z not to be here on time. I promise y'all. I promise y'all I was punching the air. I promise you. Right? I promise you. So my apologies for being nearly 15 minutes late. Right? Like I said, life was lifing, and I'm trying to rush, but and yeah, life is lifing, and oh, okay, all right. Um, so I should have put the link in the description. We are going to be covering a few points from an interview that Dr. Richard Reeves did with, and that's Brookings Institute researcher from Britain to America, now a U.S. citizen. And we're going to be touching on a couple of points that he made on an interview some 6 or so months ago. So Mr. Z's a bit late with Ezra Klein. For those of you that remember, Ezra Klein was the Jewish brother that call him brother, Jewish dude that wiped the floor with Ben Shapiro. All right, a couple years ago, well, more than a couple years ago at this point. Um, yeah, so yeah, that was interesting. That was interesting. But yeah, so like I said, this is about 6 or so months ago. I'm not sorry. Yeah, this interview was about 6 or so months ago. So we're gonna be covering a couple of covering a couple of points, but I want to get right to the main point first, right? So you know, when there are many times where we speculate on certain things, where we say things, and as the brother Obsidian has said multiple times, we state things and we wait for the facts to catch up, right? And I might be paraphrasing what he said, but we're pretty sure that we're correct, right? And then, somebody that's not even associated with the manosphere whatsoever does some research and only proves us right, right? They only prove us right. And so we're going to go over this. And I want to be very clear why I'm covering this, because Mr. Z has said what I'm covering multiple times. So we're going to go over this point first, right? And then we will come in with our commentaries. Now y'all already know, once again, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Y'all already know Mr. Z and his shoestring budget, Velcro budget, um spit shine budget, right? So we're just gonna play from my handy dandy voice recorder, and then we will go from there. But this point definitely needs to be made because we did the math, right? And we'll come in with our commentary after the fact, right? So here we go.
Idea, not least for voices. So let's move then to what happens after school. How would you describe the way the labor market changed over the past 50 years for men and for women? So we've seen dramatically different trajectories for many men, most men, and many women and most women, but by no means all. So the way I see the labor market over the last 50 years, and here I'm very influenced by the work of people like Claudia Goldin and others just looking at labor market trajectories, is that for most men, things have been pretty tough. And David Alter and Melanie Wasserman are good on this too. It's been pretty tough. So the data point here is that most American men earn less today than most American men did in 1979. So not all men at the top are doing better than the men at the top are doing, but just overall, that is at the median and a little bit above the median, male wages are a little bit lower, controlling for inflation, of course, than they were. We've seen rises across the distribution in wages for women, although, again, much faster at the top than at the bottom. So the class gap has massively widened for both men and women, but in terms of wages, of course, there's still a gender pay gap, largely as a result of the differences in the impact of parenting on men and women. But another data point is that in 1979, only 13% of women earned more than the median man, typical man 13%. And today it's about 40%. So about 40% of women now earn more than the typical man. That's just a dramatic economic change. The female wage distribution has not caught up entirely with the male one, and especially at the top, there's still a lot more work to do, but wow. I mean, it's hard not to look at that and see that, as I do, as the greatest economic liberation in global history. The amount of economic power that women now have in the labour market compared to 50 years ago is extraordinary. And then, of course, that plays out in employment too. And rates of female employment are just much higher than they were. Actually, male labour force participation has obviously dropped quite significantly.
In other words, as Mr. Z said, as been stated by the black manosphere at nauseum. I don't know what the white guys and everybody else is talking about. Y'all traded your men for the money and your pursuit of power. And there you go. It's no longer up for debate. This is a Brookings Institute researcher. He has access to the information you don't have access to. He's pouring over numbers every day, all day. This ain't no little nobody. He's not associated with the manosphere, the black manosphere, none of that. And there you go. Y'all went from 13% earning more than your typical man or your median man. Now it's 40%, and women are screaming. Why do we always gotta be told to settle? White women aren't told to settle. Well, actually, and as women's labor participation rate increase, men's decrease. Did you hear that? It's no longer up for debate. It's no longer up for debate. Now you understand why the title is Addition and Subtraction. And I will be putting the link to this in the description box after the stream. Dear black women is no longer up for debate. And that was women in general. That wasn't specifically the black women. 40% of women earn more than the typical man. You heard right. That is not to throw in women's faces, namely black women. That is to say, this is when I've said it on multiple streams, dear women, this is what you fought for, or at least your foremothers fought for. That is why Dr. Richard Reeves is saying this is the greatest economic liberation in history, and he's saying it, proud that human beings have been able to do this for women over the past half century or so, right? You wanted the freedom to do what you wanted to do, how you wanted to do it, when you wanted to do it, and not have any man tell you anything. Dear Western women, and you're going to see why I said Western women in a minute. And that's okay. Like when I say that, it's not to be snarky or but the cost is your marriage rate, maybe, right? And yeah, Mr. Z is going to cover that interview that and shout out to Leon, right? Yeah, I'm gonna cover that interview that Ebony K. Williams just did with the PhD sister. That's next up. But back to the subject at hand, dear ladies, this is what it is. It's not trying to be snarky or funny or this is what you get when we say like this is what your foremothers fought for. This is literally what your foremothers fought for. Right? Labor participation went down for men and it increased for women. Right? We went from 13% of women earning more than your typical male to about 40% of women. And women are screaming already. Right? All the things that Mr. Z has said. I've been saying this longer than 6 months ago. I have recordings on Raj's channel, BG. I've been saying this for a few years, way before Dr. Richard Reeves dropped this book, way before this interview with Ezra Klein, way before all the interviews that he was doing throughout the past year or so. I didn't need data to show me this. It's great that the data backs us up, right? I didn't need any research to show me this. Right? Let's play that clip one more again for y'all. Right? But yeah, I didn't need any research to show me that. We're gonna play that one more game, and then we're gonna play something else afterward.
Good idea, not least for voice. So let's move then to what happens after school. How would you describe the way the labor market changed over the past 50 years for men and for women? So we've seen dramatically different trajectories for many men, most men, and many women and most women, but by no means all. So the way I see the labour market over the last 50 years, and here I'm very influenced by the work of people like Claudia Golden and others just looking at labour market trajectories, is that for most men, things have been pretty tough. And David Alter and Melanie Wasserman are good on this too. It's been pretty tough. So the data point here is that most American men earn less today than most American men did in 1979. So not all men at the top are doing better than the men at the top are doing, but just overall, that means that the median and a little bit above the median, male wages are a little bit lower, controlling for inflation, of course, than they were. We've seen rises across the distribution in wages for women, although again, much faster at the top than at the bottom. So the class gap has massively widened for both men and women, but in terms of wages, of course, there's still a gender pay gap, largely as a result of the differences in the impact of parenting on men and women. But another data point is that in 1979, only 13% of women earned more than the median man, typical man 13%. And today it's about 40%. So about 40% of women now earn more than the typical man. That's just a dramatic economic change. The female wage distribution has not caught up entirely with the male one, and especially at the top, there's still a lot more work to do, but wow. I mean, it's hard not to look at that and see that, as I do, as the greatest economic liberation in global history. The amount of economic power that women now have in the labour market compared to 50 years ago is extraordinary. And then, of course, that plays out in employment too, and rates of female employment are just much higher than they were. Actually, male labor force participation has obviously dropped quite significantly.
Can we have an adult conversation now? When Mr. Z said, and shout out to Toya because Toya pretty much said the same. If I remember correctly, Toya, you said something similar to your mom, right? To your mother. They took from the men to give to the women. It wasn't up for debate. And now it's really not up for debate. Y'all gonna argue with Dr. Richard Reeves? See, when I said it, it sounded crazy. Now what? Right? It sounded crazy. It sounded hyperbolic. It sounded mean. It sounded whatever. But hey, here's the facts. Now what? Right? Here's the facts. Now what? They took from the men to give to you, ladies. The elite men, you're going to see why I'm saying that in a minute, took from men to give to you. Dear Chrissy, all that 50-50 relationship and you mocking it, well, guess what? Most women ain't going to have a choice. To hell with your hypergamy. You got to make a choice. Right? Let's dead this little juvenile conversation people having. This is the math. This is the real. Right? This is the math. This is the real. Right? They took from the men to give to the women. And I'm about to show you how they took from black men to give to white women. Dear black women, I ain't even going to get into the fact that y'all helped do it. Oops. But, yeah. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Dr. Richard Reeves could speak around it all he want. When you said we went from the liberal participation rate for men decreased as it increased for women, and women went from 13% of them earning more than the typical man to 40% of them, where did the money come from? Oh, from the pockets of the men. Yeah. From the pocket of the men to the pocket of the women. Which, by the way, okay, we want to make this society more egalitarian, so we say. Or is that only true for men that are not part of the top 20%? Oh, we're going to get to it. Everything Mr. Z has been saying for the past, what, 2-ish years Mr. Z is at his channel? Year and a half, 2 years? No, it's more than a year and a half. Like 2-ish years? Oh, yeah, we get into it tonight. It's not up for debate anymore. So when I say y'all gonna either be single, um, or eat vagina, or spend your entire life chasing after these elite dudes who the elite women already locked the door behind them. When I've been saying that, Dr. Richard Reeves is just proving me right, proving the black manosphere right. And he's not pulling it out of his rear end. He got the numbers and the history to back it up. Now what? Oh yeah. So let's get into this next clip. Give me 1 second. Y'all remember shoestring budget. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat, right? And let's see if this plays the way it's supposed to. There we go.
That brings up something I've been wanting to ask about, which is the international data. Let's take schooling as an example here. When you look at peer countries, so other post-industrialized, mostly democracies, what do we see? We see the same patterns pretty much everywhere. Is that there's a short version. To some, there are differences at different levels, but I think it's important that it's happening pretty much everywhere in terms of those advanced economies, because that's a good sign. There's not something weird about the US K-12 system, for example. Like if it wasn't also happening in Canada and the UK and Western Europe and everywhere, then you might start to think, oh, maybe it's something about our system. It's not. It's something broader than that, which I think speaks to these more deeper structural issues that we're facing. So in every OECD country, for example, there are more young women with a college degree than men. The gap is much wider in more gender equal places, which you might expect. So places like Scandinavia, there are much narrower gaps, and other places like Germany, for example, has a much smaller gap than others in terms of getting some kind of post-secondary education. But that's largely because of the technical education system in Germany. But the basic picture is, I know the UK best, that's also where I'm from, and the UK data, and the UK data is very similar to the US data in terms of educational outcomes for boys and girls.
In other words, as I said before, this isn't limited to America. Dear Western women, you wanted the positions, you got them. You just sacrificed the men to get it. That's all. These things, hey, shout out to Charles Faulkner Jr., wherever you are, Charles. That's why we keep on bringing up Full Metal Alchemist, equivalent exchange. Equivalent exchange, ladies. That money just didn't come out of nowhere. Those positions didn't come out of nowhere. All you women that want to be stay-at-home moms, those degrees didn't just come out of nowhere. Elite men used you as the buffer class against working class, lower middle class, working poor men. So the upper middle class and above men are using you as a buffer class while you chase after them, beat a little jump off, and hope and pray that you can replace the elite women. You see what I'm saying? Better you and better you, since they trying to get the Philosopher's Stone without sacrificing themselves. Well, you pretty much did sacrifice yourself because you thought you were going to get this. What? You were going to degree yourself into the arms of the elite white man? Dear working class white women, right? For many Asian women still, Latina women, black women, face it, ladies, the white man outmaneuvered you. Once again, he heard you, he saw you, he understood what he did on this planet, he understood the way you saw him, the way you saw your own men, and he outmaneuvered you while knowing you would aspire to be with him. And there you go. Right? And there you go. Across the Western world. So this is not just an American thing. It's a Canadian thing, a French thing, a British thing, a German thing. As he was saying, it's a little bit different in Germany, mainly because of the technical institutes. That's why the number's a little bit smaller. Right? The technical institutes that men go into. You sacrificed the men for the position. All those middle management jobs, black women, Western women, all those middle management jobs you have, where'd you think they came from? Right? Where'd you think they came from? Or where do you think they come from? Better yet. Right? All right, let's play the second clip. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat.
To go back to the pay data, and I think this gets to something very important. We can talk about medians, right? The kind of imagined person in the middle of the data set. And we can talk about means, right? The sort of averages of everybody. And one thing that one of those will catch and the other won't is that elite men, men at the very top of the income distribution, there's a very different story to tell about them than men in the bottom half, including comparatively with women. So can you talk about a bit about that difference and also the ways it might inform this conversation? Yeah, it's true that like men at the top are continuing to do really well. You're also seeing like massive wage gains for educated women at the top as well, relative to where they were before, and especially for white women. Actually, I mean, white women now earn more than black men, for example. But it is this top of society as the top 20. This is back to my earlier work on the dream board as the top 20%, and they tend to marry each other and so on. And so there's just like massive like runaway economic inequality, or has been the last few decades, towards the top, of that is driven to some extent by men. So men at the top, yeah, still doing pretty well economically, and women at the top doing pretty well economically, a lot more than they were before. And then when you get into the institutions, especially the apex, right, you start to see like who makes a partner in a law firm, who gets into the C-suite, etc., still very gender skewed. And so at the apex of society, what you're seeing is that women are still struggling to turn these kind of massively increased educational credentials into economic power at the same rate as men. They're obviously much more economically powerful than previous generations of women, but that translation mechanism just isn't working quite the same way. And I think that's because there remain these structural barriers in some ways, in some areas like politics, which you know better than me, for sure, Ezra. But in things like how do you make partner, how do you get tenure, how do you get into the C-suite, then the way that the labour market currently works is that basically the way you do that is by killing yourself from about the age of 27 to the age of 37. Well done. They then wonder why it's harder on average for women to do that. So again, it's the trajectories of elite professional careers that really seem to end up penalising even these very highly educated women, which results in some pretty big gender pay gaps even at the top. One other question.
Yeah, like I said, elite white men are still blocking elite white women from being all the way at the tippy top with them, but they're still marrying those women. Those women are locking the door behind them, making sure you ladies who's trying to go after those elite white men. This is a class game. Yes, it's still a race game. As he said, white women now earn more than black men. Thank you, black feminists. Oops. Huh? Thank you, black and white feminists. And then those women then marry their elite men, lock the door behind them, and let you, black women, Latina women, some Asian women, be the side chick. Hoping and praying for Mr. Cartwright. It's no longer up for debate. I said it before. They're marrying each other. That's why I said the top 20 or so percent get married, stay married. Those elite women. That's why it's not assortative mating. I said it, mate guarding. It's elite women mate guarding. It's the upper middle class and above mate guarding. It's not assortative mating. Because when men were the ones that were going to college more than women, they were marrying all across the board. Now that women are attending college and graduating more than men, they're mate guarding. While all of you aspire for that top 20% mainly white man. All that swirler divester talk, yeah, right. Sounds nice. Will it happen for a handful of black women? Yeah. But for most of the divestors and swirlers, no. Not even just black women. The 10 toes down, stomp down, divestors and swirlers. Nope. Nope. These people hear you, they see you, they know your aspirations, and they played your ass. They told you to go to university and college. They told you to sacrifice your men on the altar. And then you could, what, merit your way into being with one of the super rich white elite men. And then the super rich white elite women said, yeah, no. Right? We're going to lock the door behind us. And guess what they did? Lock the door behind themselves. They're using women, whoever the elite men are using women, working class women, lower middle class women, both college educated and not, as the buffer class, while they get married and stay married. Or more often than not, have a better marriage rate than the bottom 80%, have longer marriages, and are less likely to divorce. Why y'all swear by this particular capitalist society system, right? Why y'all swear by it, right? Now, dear liberal black women, now y'all can talk about all the white supremacist, capitalist, patriarchy, while you secretly try to end up with the white man on the low. It's no longer up for debate, ladies. Right? Unless one of you want to take that up with Dr. Richard Reeves and the Brookings Institute. Right? Let's play the next clip.
Can you talk about Raj Chetty's findings here on the differences in upward mobility between black women and black men? Because I remember being knocked over by this finding a couple years ago and watching as the coverage of that study filtered out and realizing nobody knew what to do with this part of it. Again, one of the studies that really influenced me thinking about this was Raj Chetty's work showing there's just much higher rates of upward mobility for men than for women from poorer backgrounds, but especially a huge difference in the upward mobility rates between black men and black women. And he and his research team conclude that all of the difference between black and white Americans in intergenerational mobility is explained by black men, boys and men, all of it. And there's actually more recent work from the Urban Institute that tries to control for the structural effects of being black in America, which again shows this huge difference in the impact on black boys and black men. It essentially shows that taking away, they're trying to look at the effect of structural racism, and it would have massively beneficial effects for black men if we were to do better on that front than for black women. So again, I agree with you that we didn't quite know what to do with it, or at least certainly perhaps the centre-left circles didn't know what to do with it, because it sort of disrupted some of these senses that we have. We like the world to be neat. We like it to be white above black, men above women, straight above gay. Take your thing, and it all just stacks up neatly like that, like some sort of child's toy. It's all just neat, but that's not how it works. And especially when it comes to the experience of being black in America, gender is hugely important and seems to strongly disfavour black boys and black men. And what Raj and his colleagues' work really showed is that just plays out in this intergenerational literature very, very strongly. And what it means is that if we're genuinely worried about what's happening to black Americans, then most of our attention should go to black boys and black men.
I said it. It's no longer up for debate. For all of those black women that want to play oppression Olympics. I'm not for it. I've said this before on my channel. I said it on other people's channel. I am not for playing oppression Olympics. But unfortunately, if that's what y'all want to play, unfortunately, black men are going to win. Unfortunately. So, dear black women, what they made you think was that you can escape black men. So they buried black men, made you think you could educate your way and merit your way out of having to deal with the fact that you're black like black men, and they locked the door in front of your face. Chrissy, Yanni, Lexus exit. That's why y'all want to swirl and divest. Yeah, it ain't gonna work. Elite white women waiting for you. They buried black men. And you thought you were going to be able to escape with a degree and moving into the suburbs next to the white dude and the white woman. And they locked the damn gated community doors on your ass before you could even get in. And there you go. I said, dear black women, you either build with black men or perish with black men. There is no other way. You'll just perish with, you'll just be hanging from the other tree. That's all. Shout out to whoever it is with that cover on her video with a black man hanging on one side while a black girl is swinging on the other side on the tree swing. Yeah, you wish. They'll just hang you right after. That's all. Right? They'll just hang you right after. That's all. When I said it wasn't up for debate, I meant it. So Mr. Z has been saying stuff like this for years. Dr. Richard Reeves' book just came out, what, a year ago or some on? This interview is about 6 months old. I was speaking, and you, if you don't believe me, y'all can ask the Roger Report, you can ask BGS. I was speaking about dream hoarders when I first got into the black manosphere. I kept on saying top 20%, top 20%, top 20%. They hoarding everything. And it's mainly white folks. They're not just hoarding the money, they're hoarding the dreams, the opportunities, the aspirations, the marriage, everything. While you got black women talking about black men being not marrying them, being losers, not earning enough. You don't even understand the society you live in. Right? So now that we have this, now what? I said, black women, you don't got no choice. Well, I mean, you do have a choice. Let's take that back. You do have a choice. You could not build with black men. You could try to go it alone, or you could try to end up with a non-black dude or with another black woman, and eventually bury yourself. Or let the white folks. You can let the white folks destroy black men and then think you're gonna survive. It's not gonna happen. It don't work that way. I've said it multiple times. All this speaking about black women like they're some separate entity. Oh no. All this, the black community is going to be a matriarchy or there won't be a black community. All that fake egalitarian talk, stop it. You say egalitarian, you say equality, what you really mean is women led. Right? Trell said you can choose pink pole or brown box. Right? So y'all heard me saying these things, and I understand. Like it was like, where's Z? Z is speaking like from a place of some supreme confidence, right? From a place of authority. Where's he getting this from? Truth be told, just listening to people putting all of this stuff together and be like, how is this supposed to work for poor people? How's this supposed to work for black people? How's this supposed to work for working class and lower middle class and poor black people and working poor black people? How's this supposed to work? Here's the catch. It's not. It would, or it would work better if the women weren't so hell bent on either opulence or nothing. Right? Either opulence or scorched earth. And when I say opulence, I mean like now. like yesterday, right? And now we're here now, right? So I want to play this clip one more again so I can get on the road. Let's see. Let's play this again. And something happened. So I gotta go from. Let's see. Let's play this one more again. Right?
Good idea, not least for boys. So let's move then to what happens after school. How would you describe the way the labor market changed over the past 50 years for men and for women? So we've seen dramatically different trajectories for many men, most men, and many women and most women, but by no means all. So the way I see the labor market over the last 50 years, and here I'm very influenced by the work of people like Claudia Goldin and others just looking at the labor market trajectories, is that for most men, things have been pretty tough. And David Alter and Melanie Wasserman are good on this too. It's been pretty tough. So the data point here is that most American men earn less today than most American men did in 1979. So not all men at the top are doing better than the men at the top are doing, but just overall, that means that at the median and a little bit above the median, male wages are a little bit lower, controlling for inflation, of course, than they were. We've seen rises across the distribution in wages for women, although, again, much faster at the top than at the bottom. So the class gap has massively widened for both men and women. But in terms of wages, of course, there's still a gender pay gap, largely as a result of the differences in the impact of parenting on men and women. But another data point is that in 1979, only 13% of women earned more than the median man, typical man 13%. And today it's about 40%. So about 40% of women now earn more than the typical man. That's just a dramatic economic change. The female wage distribution has not caught up entirely with the male one, and especially at the top, there's still a lot more work to do, but wow. I mean, it's hard not to look at that and see that, as I do, as the greatest economic liberation in global history. The amount of economic power that women now have in the labour market compared to 50 years ago is extraordinary. And then, of course, that plays out in employment too. Rates of female employment are just much higher than they were. Actually, male labour force participation has obviously dropped quite significantly.
Yeah. So he says pretty much, from the women earn more, men earn less when you count inflation and everything else than they did in 1979. Now, there's somebody in the black manosphere who named himself after a car, who's been saying about 40 years over and over and over and over and over again until y'all got sick of it, and then kept on saying it. I wonder who that is. Right? I wonder who that is. Right? And PK Angel says, works for the rich, though, because they eating us all. My point. Right? And Indigo Flow says, Toya, to your earlier comment about women's success, a little thing I like to say. Congratulations. You's a provider now, boo. Thank you. Thank you. Right? Exactly. I've been saying it. Look, these people, what they did was absolute genius. Absolute genius. They hoarded all the money. They flicked a couple of crumbs to the women, empowering the women. Nothing wrong with that. No, when I say that, I really mean it. Nothing wrong with that. Empowered the women, and guess what? Now, ladies, while you're chasing after them, their women are locking the door behind themselves, making sure you can't really compete to be with the baller dude. Genius. Your concepts of hypergamy be damned. You might be going up a few dollars in income, but you're not moving up in class. Rich elite white men outmaneuvered you. Dear Western women, dear American women, dear black women in America, whether you realize it or not, you sacrificed your men for a little bit of shopping money and a couple of degrees and some middle management positions. You sacrificed your men. You sacrificed working class, lower middle class, poor, solidly middle class men, some solidly middle class men, for some shopping money, some middle management positions, and some degrees. And Mr. Z is not anti-college, anti-university, or anti-women getting a degree. I'm not even anti-women in the workforce. I'm telling you what it cost. Right? I'm telling you what it cost. They played you. Dear black women, you played yourself and they played you more. Black feminists thought they were going to sacrifice black men, collude with white women, sacrifice black men, and then go sell out in the sunset with white women and white men. And white men played you, and white women played you. Right? Huh. And all that Dr. Richard Reeves was saying here is that they played you. Now, more left-leaning researcher. So of course, the empowerment of women through being able to earn and live how they want to live. We're not against that, ladies. We just telling you what it cost. Dear Yanni, I want to be a kept woman of leisure. Well, maybe not. Chrissy over here making fun of people in 50-50 relationships. Well, right? Kim Foster over here talking about class, and black people don't respect class. What class? Yeah, there's some black people there's some old black money in America. Yeah, there is. Some people that have been, degreed up since Jim Crow, degreed up since Reconstruction. Right? And dear working class women, they tricked you into sacrificing your men because I said it before, they don't fear you. They tricked you into sacrificing your men because they didn't fear you, so they made you the buffer class. Because they knew all you wanted to do was practice conspicuous consumption. And they tricked you into sacrificing your men so you could buy a YSL bag, Yves Saint Laurent, yo. Or some Jimmy Choos. Or some Louis. Right? Or some red bottoms. You sacrificed your men, as I said before, for some middle management positions, a couple of degrees, and some shopping money. Not getting married that much, not having children, and I can't find it. But I remember Crystal Ball speaking on some data some research that she came upon. Crystal Ball from Breaking Points used to be on the Hill, but when she was on the Hill, and she said more than once that some data that she came up on, some research that she came up on, that said and if anybody can find it or know what she's speaking about, but Crystal was saying that she came up on some information that showed that it was upper middle class or the top 20% or so that were looking forward to family formation, that were looking forward to children and getting married, and everybody else wasn't. So the bottom 80 and below weren't. They were weary of having children and getting married. Right? So there you go, ladies. There you go. They moved you up to being the buffer class, the elite white men and white women, mainly white men. They knew you were going to aspire and your hypergamy was going to kick into overdrive. Nothing wrong with that. Women are hypergamous. We understand that. And then the white women locked the door behind them, relegated you to aspirations and at best side chick. While you look down on your man, whether it's Asian men, Latino men, but definitely black men, definitely working class, lower middle class, working poor black men. I just want to know, where's Yanni with the research? Kim Foster, you want to talk about us not doing data? Now what? I got the researcher right here. What you saying? Y'all don't know how to read data? Now what? Huh? I don't know how to. Here we go. We don't know how to read the data. We're misinterpreting the data. Now what? Misinterpret what? Huh? So Kim Foster, you're doing well in life. So you and Buddy Rowe potentially could get married, and you could change your mind potentially on having children, and sell out in the sunset while you sell working class women on solidarity about this black womanhood, while you get married and have children, and they do what now? Oh yeah, didn't Mr. Z speak about the petite bourgeoisie in the black community being black women and how they selling working class black women on this solidarity that doesn't really exist because they're black working class women's class enemy? Huh? Want to call us mediocre now, Ebony? You sacrifice the men for your position, Ebony, which, by the way, Ebony's kind of tacitly admitting to. That's kind of what she was saying to Lauren. Wait until you close on that $1.7 million property. Ain't nobody gonna be able to tell you ish, right? Wait until you have the skybox. Now what? Right? I've said it before, ladies. What happens when you become the ceiling? I could do better by myself. Okay, what happens when you're good though? Uh-oh. What happens when you're financially good? Here's the kicker. This is what black women refuse to understand with that information that came out a year or so ago about, black men are costing the U.S. government, incarcerating black men, or some $50 billion a year or something like that. What you didn't understand is that they're saying to keep to keep their foot on black men's neck, they're okay spending $50 billion a year. That's what you didn't understand. The money meant nothing to keep the threat of black men subdued. That's what you didn't understand. You read it wrong, Kim Foster. You read the data wrong. What they're trying to say is, oh yeah, 50 to get black men out of the way. Oh yeah, that ain't nothing. We'll do it. That's cheap. 50 billion. That's it. Okay, yeah, we'll do it. In other words, dear super professional black women, $250,000 a year black women, to make sure that you don't produce the next generation of Fred Hamptons and Martin Luther Kings and Khalid Muhammad's, they'll pay you $250,000 a year. God damn, Mr. Z. That's what you don't get. They'll pay you $250,000 a year so you can look down on other Negroes and never raise a Fred Hampton. Huh? And if you do get married to a black man, y'all go raise some weirdo black child that think they white, that's hyper materialistic and ain't sacrificing nothing for no one. Y'all go move in the burbs and go raise some black white wannabe. Huh? They'll pay you $250,000 a year to do that. They'll pay you $300,000 a year to do that. They'll pay you $150,000 a year to do that. To look down on black men, that's chump change. That is chump change. To make sure that professional black women, especially those of you with the discipline and the intelligence, to make sure you have an anger and a resentment at black men. Why do you think Mr. Z keep on critiquing the well-spoken and intelligent of these particular people, these black women, the ones that have the ears of other black women and black girls? It ain't nothing. Don't y'all get the message? The black woman with the weirdo thumbnail, with the black man hanging on one side while the black girl swing, is on the tree swing on the other side, and YouTube didn't say anything. Why? Because you're doing their bidding. Because you're doing their bidding. Don't you get it? And they still won't let you marry the white dude on the top. Right? They still won't let you marry the white dude on the top. This is absolutely like evil genius muhahaha stuff right here. Now it's not anything necessarily new that black men in the black manosphere haven't been saying or at least alluding to, right? We've been saying these type of things. It's nothing necessarily, I'm not bringing anything 100% new and revolutionary right now. Not necessarily, but this is confirmation. So all you brothers, do with this what you will. Like I said, I'm going to link the video in the description, right? Do with this what you will. For all you swirlers and divestors, do with this what you will. For the rest of the black community, do with this what you will. For the rest of working class and lower middle class America, do with this what you will. But the debate is over. But particularly for the black community, the debate is over. It's over. So y'all can let the swirlers and divestors do their little best rendition of 12-year-old white boy edgelord culture, right? 13-year-old, 14, 15-year-old white boy edgelord culture. Because they're going to keep on kicking and screaming and saying how we're not on their level and how we're dusty. They're going to keep on saying that, but it's done. It's done. They encourage you to sacrifice black men because you thought you were going to collude with, I'm going to keep on saying these same things over and over. You thought you were going to collude with white women, throw black men under the bus. Little did you know, the cuffs that were around black men's leg were around your leg too. So you threw yourself under the bus. Right along with black men. They just got you on the back end. That's all. And across the entire Western world, dear women in the Western world, developed countries, excuse me, OECD countries, right? Don't you see what just happened? Don't you get it? So you got what you wanted. They use you as a buffer class, and there you go. You got the degrees. You got the middle management positions. A couple of y'all got elite positions, but for the most part, white elite men are blocking you out. And all of that you've done over the past 40 and 50 years, you sacrificed the men for. That's why y'all don't want to get married, because for y'all, it's the elite man or nothing. Well, the elite woman said, yeah, nope, not on my watch. The elite white woman said, yeah, nope. So they still get married at high enough numbers to run away with the money, hoard all the wealth, while they sell y'all on female and women empowerment. I said it the other day. What you thought? You thought elite white women were gonna let you come in because you got a master's or a PhD and marry their elite white sons in any significant number? I would like to direct you to Travis Kelsey. God damn, Mr. Z. Y'all forgot the part where they kept on saying, oh yeah, his mom is so happy that he's with Taylor Swift, or he might be dating Taylor Swift. Y'all forgot that part? Let him have his fun with the sister. And when it's time to get serious, you go marry the white woman that earns how much more than you. That's how much richer than you. That's how much more famous than you. And that doesn't mean that Taylor Swift won't break up with him tomorrow. We're not saying that. Y'all forgot Tariq covered the story of the Canadian black sister that said she, beginning of COVID, she went to go, and I've brought this story up multiple times. She went to go stay with her white boyfriend and their family, and his family, better yet. And the white parents smiling all in her face. Boyfriend sent her downstairs to get his charger. She's sneaking around looking for the charger, and she hear the white mother and father saying, "Yeah, I hope he just do what he want to do with her, and I hope he don't think he gonna marry her." What y'all thought? I said it before. Like, if it really was that, Chrissy would have been married. If it was really that. So, dear black women, you sacrifice black men for a couple of middle management positions. It's that simple. And you weren't the only ones, although you were the most egregious, right? You weren't the only ones, but you were the most egregious, and there you go. Right? Huh. And so no placeholder says, Nazi, they they not gonna hang me. I got that wop. Right? Wet vagina. Yeah. It really is that delusional, ain't it? It really is that delusional. Somehow I'm gonna escape this because of this vagina. Somehow I'm going to escape this because I'm a woman. I didn't invest in escaping this, or I invested in escaping this singularly, excuse me, by myself. Screw everyone else, right? Very self-interested, very selfish, and look, right, right. And I got to do a review of Dr. Jared Ball and Diallo Kenyatta and Gishi talking about the overall manosphere. I don't have much to say about the white manosphere and what they on, right? But the parts that pertain to the black manosphere, oh yeah, we're gonna talk about it, right? So now that we established that Mr. Z know what the hell he talking about, right? And I'm not 100% correct on all the information all the time, right? Slip up sometimes, of course. Make mistakes sometimes, of course. My data might be a few years off here and there, but the overall message is the same. You sacrificed your black men for these positions, and then you mad that what? Black men are not quote unquote on your level, while they still earn more than you, by the way. And now white men ain't coming to pick you up, especially now white elite men from on the other side. What you thought? What you thought, right? Right? Spademan said, "I'm the only one with viscous innards." Right? Shout out to MTR. Right? Ladies, I get it. Right? Super enticing. Excuse me. We don't have to be in these oppressive marriages anymore. We don't have to, deal with patriarchy, even though you still want the elite white patriarchs at the top. But that's a conversation for another day. We don't have to be with these loser men who come home drunk anymore. We don't, or that gamble away the house rent and all this other stuff. Yeah, we get to be free and do what we want to do, how we want to do it. And now I get to make a shot at the C-suite in the corner office, and yeah, right, and be a partner. And well, maybe not. And yeah, and I'm gonna go and get my degree, and go to grad school, then go to law school, then marry one of these super elite white men, and go move into the suburbs and be Kentanji, right? Be Kentanji Brown Jackson, be de Blasio's wife, who he's now separated from, but they still married on paper. Be McCain Jr.'s wife. I'm going to be just like that. And maybe not. Y'all gotta admit that, when someone thinks they know what they're doing, and like it like they had intentions of doing this anyway, right? But then they get outmaneuvered by somebody that's even more maniacal than them, right? They get screwed by someone that's even more intelligent or maniacal than them. Maybe not even more intelligent, just understand the game a little bit more, right? And the 18th letter says, and thank you for the super chat. And once again, thank you for the super chat earlier, no placeholder. And the 18th letter says, these women have made an identity and a financial investment into scorched earth. Exactly. They don't want to build with black men like Omar Epps. They're in too deep. Hey, look, man. You outmaneuver yourself. And Faber says, McCain Jr., yes, one of John McCain's sons is married to a black woman. Okay, looking sister too. Right? So yes, ladies, as I said, I know I made some fun, but it's really to say, like, now you understand the landscape. If you didn't before, if it needed to be that glaringly obvious, if you needed someone, not even just someone, a PhD white man, which is the only person you'll listen to, if you needed someone to say it, like just straight out say it, there you go. You went from 13% earning more than your typical man to 40% earning more than your typical man. You increased in the labor participation while men decrease in labor participation. Your 60-40 split, women to men, in university and college, right? If you needed someone to say it, there you go. The married elite people are running out and the wealth disparity is becoming greater. I said it because their parents only had 1 and 2 kids. Their parents were elite also, and they're leaving their 1 or 2 children life insurance at some crazy amount, plus the house, plus lifetime in vivo transfers, and then those children are getting married to each other in that class while you look through the window and hope you could get the elite white man. Talking about hypergamy. Stop. Hypergamy. Get out of here. Right? And like, Dr. Richard Reeves was saying about Raj Chetty, that's a white man, that's an Indian man. If you want to do for black people, you do for black men. Straight up. If you want black people to advance, you got to do for black men. The cost of being black is largely and mostly held by black men. And black women saw that and said, yeah, but we got to peace out and go get our degrees and see if we could climb up the ladder, see if we could be with elite black men or upper middle class and above non-black men, mainly white men. And for the vast majority of black women, that ain't working, and they throwing a goddamn temper tantrum instead of doing with and for the black men from their communities, advocating for the black men in their communities. They thought they were gonna end up with elite black men or end up with upper middle class and above non-black men, primarily white men. And white women and some Asian women said, yeah, right. And locked the door. It's not up for debate. Y'all like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Right? It's not up for debate. Let's play this clip. Let's play a couple of clips and give our commentary again and close out, because what else is there to say? What else is there to say? This is no more debate. Richard Reeves isn't going to frame it in the way Mr. Z is framing it. But essentially, you sacrificed the men, middle class and lower men, definitely working class and lower middle class and working poor. You sacrificed them for these positions, ladies, and for the money. That's understandable. But then on the other side, don't be complaining about no 50-50 relationships. Don't complain that you can't be a stay-at-home mom. Don't complain about inflation and all this struggle and 50-hour, 60-hour work weeks. Yeah. Now what? Let's play this again.
That brings up something I've been wanting to ask about, which is the international data. Let's take schooling as an example here. When you look at peer countries, so other post-industrialized, mostly democracies, what do we see? We see the same patterns pretty much everywhere. Is a short version. To some, there are differences at different levels, but I think it's important that it's happening pretty much everywhere in terms of those advanced economies, because that's a good sign. There's not something weird about the US K-12 system, for example. Right? If it wasn't also happening in Canada and the UK and Western Europe and everywhere, then you might start to think, oh, maybe it's something about our system. It's not. It's something broader than that, which I think speaks to these more deeper structural issues that we're facing. So in every OECD country, for example, there are more young women with a college degree than men. The gap is much wider in more gender equal places, which you might expect. So places like Scandinavia, there are much narrower gaps, and other places like Germany, for example, has a much smaller gap than others in terms of getting some kind of post-secondary education. But that's largely because of the technical education system in Germany. But the basic picture is, I know the UK best, that's obviously where I'm from, the UK data, and the UK data is very similar to the US data in terms of educational outcomes for boys and girls.
They're using you as the buffer class, ladies, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that if you don't think anything's wrong with that. But you do think something's wrong with that because you want the lifestyle, but you don't want to give up And of course, Mr. Z got kicked out of his own stream. Of course I did. Right? Of course I did. Let me read no placeholders comment before it X me out. They will give trillions Z its digital money. Yeah. To keep their foot on black men's neck? Yeah. Yes, they will. Right? So, you know, you sacrificed your men, and they're using you as a buffer class, ladies. The elite white man across the Western world is using you as a buffer class because to get to him, we have to go through you. And the second we start saying something, then it's sexist misogyny. Yeah, that's it. Sexism and misogyny. Well, right. I want to be very clear. Elite white men are willing to pay women in general thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars, right? They're willing to pay y'all to sacrifice your men, right? To sacrifice your men that you don't see as your men, funny enough, because they see it as that. Elite and rich white women see it as that. That's why they're not letting you get with their man. As I said before, it's not assortative mating, it's mate guarding. It's class position mate guarding that elite white women are participating in, are engaging in. While you hope and pray and wish, hoping and praying and wishing that you could be with their dude, with their man. Right? Now let's play this.
Go back to the pay data, and I think this gets to something very important. We can talk about medians, right? The kind of imagined person in the middle of the data set. Then we can talk about means, right? The sort of averages of everybody. And one thing that one of those will catch and the other won't is that elite men at the very top of the income distribution, there's a very different story to tell about them than men in the bottom half, including comparatively with women. So can you talk a bit about that difference and also the ways it might inform this conversation? Yeah, it's true that men at the top are continuing to do really well. You're also seeing massive wage gains for educated women at the top as well, relative to where they were before, and especially for white women. Actually, I mean, white women now earn more than black men, for example. But it's this top of society has the top 20. This is back to my earlier work on the dream board as the top 20%, and they tend to marry each other and so on. And so there's just massive runaway economic inequality, or has been the last few decades, towards the top, and that is driven to some extent by men. So men at the top, yeah, still doing pretty well economically, and women at the top doing pretty well economically, a lot more than they were before. And then when you get into the institutions, especially the apex, right, you start to see who makes a partner in a law firm, who gets into the C-suite, etc., still very gender skewed. And so at the apex of society, what you're seeing is that women are still struggling to turn these kind of massively increased educational credentials into economic power at the same rate as men. They're obviously much more economically powerful than previous generations of women, but that translation mechanism just isn't working quite the same way. And I think that's because there remain these structural barriers in some ways, in some areas like politics, which you know better than me, for sure, Ezra, but in things like how do you make partner, how do you get tenure, how do you get into the C-suite, and the way that the labour market currently works is that basically the way you do that is by killing yourself from about the age of 27 to the age of 37. Well, duh. You then wonder why it's harder on average for women to do that. So again, it's the trajectories of elite professional careers that really seem to end up penalising even these very highly educated women, which results in some pretty big gender pay gaps even at the top. One of the questions,
in other words, elite rich white men sold you on getting your degrees so that you can compete against them while also ending up with them. Somehow you compete against them, you win, but somehow they still win enough to earn more than you so that you could still be hypergamous. How does this math? I don't know. This is why we titled this, addition and subtraction. So they sold you on getting your degree so that you can elevate yourself to the position of being in their presence and somehow magically not just being their side piece or their bust down or their little, toy for a season, but actually, the ring, right? The marriage. And you believe them. And then their women saw you running and locked the door in your face and marry him, and then they, elite men and elite white women and elite white men, go sell it in the sunset with all the money and prestige that they hoarded, while the white elite woman watches you stare through the window at her man. Yeah. What type of weird soap opera thing y'all living out here? Right? What type of weird soap opera thing y'all got going on out here? So, I had to bring this to y'all because we hear some real weirdness in the black community. We hear some real weirdness about black men being lazy and black men not trying hard enough. And what did Paris Milan tell me? Yeah, I'm a woman, right? Why can't black men do it? I'm a woman. Black women are doing it. Yeah. Sanctioned by white men because they don't see y'all as a threat. They don't see women in general as a threat. Elite white men know that you ain't gonna challenge them. They know that y'all want to be with them. Even though Paris is with a black man last time I checked, Nigerian. Yeah, exactly, Trail Billy. They think like they living out here a telenovela, right? Y'all living a telenovela out here. So let's play this next one.
Can you talk about Raj Chetty's findings here on the differences in upward mobility between black women and black men? Because I remember being knocked over by this finding a couple of years ago and watching as the coverage of that study filtered out and realizing nobody knew what to do with this part of it. Again, one of the studies that really influenced me thinking about this was Raj Chetty's work showing there's just much higher rates of upward mobility for men and for women from poorer backgrounds, but especially a huge difference in the upward mobility rates between black men and black women. And he and his research team conclude that all of the difference between black and white Americans in intergenerational mobility is explained by black men, boys and men, all of it. And there's actually more recent work from the Urban Institute that tries to control for the structural effects of being black in America, which again shows this huge difference in the impact on black boys and black men. It essentially shows that taking away, they're trying to look at the effect of structural racism, and it would have massively beneficial effects for black men if we were to do better on that front than for black women. So again, I agree with you that we didn't quite know what to do with it, or at least certainly perhaps the centre-left circles didn't know what to do with it because it sort of disrupted some of these senses that we have. We like the world to be neat. We like it to be white above black, men above women, straight above gay. Take your thing, and it all just stacks up neatly like that, like some sort of child's toy. It's all just neat, but that's not how it works. And especially when it comes to the experience of being black in America, gender is hugely important and seems to strongly disfavour black boys and black men. And what Raj and his colleagues' work really showed is that just plays out in this intergenerational literature very, very strongly. And what it means is that if we're genuinely worried about what's happening to black Americans, then most of our attention should go to black boys and black men.
And before we continue with that, Better Use has got to verify that dude before I believe Chrissy ain't alone. That could be a vibrator, a vibrator for all we know. Brother, no, Paris, not Chrissy, Paris. If I said Chrissy, my apologies. It's Paris. Number one. Number two, they didn't know what to do with the information. They don't know what to do with it. In other words, if we start attempting to help black boys and men and start doing for them, are black women going to pull a my brother's keeper? Are they going to do the same thing they did with Obama with my brother's keeper? Huh? Throw a fit? What about us? Are they going to do the same thing or speak the same way the women from quote unquote Queens and Cocktails spoke to Ice Cube? What about us? Huh? In other words, when we found out, oh crap, all the cost of being black is really held by black men, what do we do about this? It doesn't fit nice and neat in the intersectional frame of things. Uh-oh. It doesn't fit nice and neat in the idea that black plus woman plus LGBTQ is a threat to white supremacy. Yawn. What more proof do you need that maybe you should consider, just maybe, social dominance order? Huh? This also speaks to the research that we've all mentioned before, Brookings Institute research that shows that 70% of black boys born into upper middle class and above situations come back down to working class. Right? So now that they know that, now what? Right? We keep on look, Mr. Z is going to keep on saying this, and it's not to beg black women. You can't. There's nowhere for you to go. You are going to have to do for and with black boys and men, or you will bury yourself. I know y'all trying to abandon black men. I know. I get it. I get it. No, we got our degrees and we worked so hard and we kissed so much white ass and did some other things to other things. Right? We tried so hard to escape black men. And white society won't let us. Why can't y'all just let us be upper middle class white women? We just want to be upper middle class white women. We just want to be rich white women. I get it, black women. I get it. You fell for the idea that meritocracy was real. You fell for the idea that you actually worked that hard. And I'm not saying that black women aren't working hard. Be very clear what Mr. Z is saying. And black men are not working that hard. You actually fell for the idea, both black women and non-black women, that you were that much better than the men from your communities, that you worked that much harder than them, that you were that much more disciplined than them. You don't think elite white men got your number and they knew what to sell you and how to sell you it. They knew what to sell you and how to sell you it. Like y'all never heard of Bernays before. Or Sigmund Freud. Y'all never heard of these people before, huh? Propagandists, brain researchers, historians, Tristan Harris is telling you they study in the brain. They know exactly how to show things, where to show it, how to make a like pop up on whatever social media website to spark something in your brain. The dopamine that's released, they're studying you. They know exactly where and how to hit you. They know what to sell you, how to sell you it, when to sell it to you. Huh? Elite white men outmaneuvered you. Sorry, Chrissy. Sorry, Yanni. Even if one of y'all end up with them, fine, cool. Most of your subscribers are going to suffer because you're not being honest with them. You're attempting to give them an escape hatch that's not going to work for like any of them. That interracial swirling hypergamy, sorry. As I said, the white dudes that got it like that, the white women already locked that door behind them. You're talking about white people that's willing to sacrifice other white people. Do you know what that means for black people? White women feel some type of way about Asian women moving into their spot. You think they're gonna now let black women move into their spot? All that hypergamy talk, not if the elite white women have anything to say about it. Not if the rich and elite white women have anything to say about it. Lock the door. Huh? And black women saw that the cost of being black in America was largely held by black men, and then they over here talking about intersectionality. I'm black plus woman plus LGBTQ and have these intersecting identities. Uh-huh. Meanwhile, this society buried black men, and black women thought they could escape this society burying black men. Right? What did Yvette Carnell say? We watched our men go to prison. I know black women don't want to call black men their men. Black men are your men. We watched black men get thrown in prison and we said nothing. As a matter of fact, a lot of black women said good riddance. As your daughters grew up with no dad and now they don't got no man. Ooh, goddamn, Mr. Z. Huh? They warehoused black men all through the 80s and the 90s, and y'all thought it was funny because you thought you were going to show white folks what, that you were that respectable. And look, all the ain't-ish Negroes are off the streets, or most of them are, or they're in a revolving door from being in the streets for a year or two to back in prison, and et cetera, et cetera. And 30 and 40 years later, 20 some odd and 30 and 40 years later, black women, what you got to show for it? As I said before, a couple of middle management positions, a baby Benz you barely could afford. Huh? a baby Benz you barely could afford, a couple of middle management positions, and some shopping money. As I said before, these people are willing to pay you $250,000 a year for you to talk crap about black men, or for you to feel like you elevated yourself, quote unquote, elevated yourself above the masses of black men. They're willing to pay you that. What is $300,000 in a country with an economy of what, $23 trillion? 22, $23 trillion? They'll pay enough black women to look down on Negroes, and as I said before, not raise a future Fred Hampton, not raise a future Malcolm X. They'll pay y'all that. They'll pay you that. Right? Not to raise a future Tupac, for all his flaws, not to raise a future Tupac. Right? They will pay you to do that. A nice money. What's $500,000 if we could stop you from raising a future revolutionary? Here, you can have this $500,000. Take it. Go. Go buy your nice Benz. Go be a bust down for some white dude. Go move out in the suburbs. Go take your luxury trips. Go buy your luxury apartment. Right? Go look down on Negroes. Go on a Negroes Ain't Ish tour. Go on a tour calling Negroes mediocre. Oh yeah. We'll pay you $500,000 a year to do that. Oh yeah, absolutely. Right? Who wants to be with average anyway? Oh yeah, we will pay you $500,000 a year to feel and think that. Oh yeah, no problem. Here, take it. Right? And y'all like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. As I said before, this is no longer up for debate. This is addition and subtraction. Right? This is addition and subtraction. Russo Gian, thank you for the Cash App. Thank you for the Cash App. Right? Let's play this one more again.
Idea, not least for boys. So let's move then to what happens after school. How would you describe the way the labor market changed over the past 50 years for men and for women? So we've seen dramatically different trajectories for many men, most men, and many women and most women, but by no means all. So the way I see the labour market over the last 50 years, and here I'm very influenced by the work of people like Claudia Goldin and others just looking at labour market trajectories, is that for most men, things have been pretty tough. And David Alter and Melanie Wasserman are good on this too. It's been pretty tough. So the data point here is that most American men earn less today than most American men did in 1979. So not all men at the top are doing better than the men at the top are doing, but just overall, that means that at the median and a little bit above the median, male wages are a little bit lower, controlling for inflation, of course, than they were. We've seen rises across the distribution in wages for women, although, again, much faster at the top than at the bottom. So the class gap has massively widened for both men and women, but in terms of wages, of course, there's still a gender pay gap, largely as a result of the differences in the impact of parenting on men and women. But another data point is that in 1979, only 13% of women earned more than the median man, typical man 13%. And today it's about 40%. So about 40% of women now earn more than the typical man. That's just a dramatic economic change. The female wage distribution has not caught up entirely with the male one, and especially at the top, there's still a lot more work to do, but wow. I mean, it's hard not to look at that and see that, as I do, as the greatest economic liberation in global history. The amount of economic power that women now have in the labour market compared to 50 years ago is extraordinary. And then, of course, that plays out in employment too. And rates of female employment are just much higher than they were. Actually, male labour force participation has obviously dropped quite significantly.
And everyone, there you go. Dear women, dear working class women, you sacrifice the men. And that's okay. Yeah, PK liberation. Yeah, 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 yeah. I heard it too. I heard it too. Right? You sacrifice the men. And that's okay, I guess. Not really, but hey, right? So this is the cost of your freedom, I guess. As PK said, your liberation, right? As Dr. Richard Reeves would say, this is the cost of your liberation is your relationship with men, as you aspire to be with elite men, and occasionally, maybe one or two of you coming from one of the lower classes get to be married to that dude. Super seldom, right? Cheryl Bentley said liberté, right? As the French would say. So there you go. Labor participation rate went up for women, went down for men, right? What was it, 1979? He said 1980, something like that. 13% of women earn more than the typical male. Now, and he didn't say black, that's women in general. Now it's 40% that earn more than the typical male. The price. That's the price. Right? So they outmaneuvered you, ladies, and there we go. That's it. They outmaneuvered you, right? Sauchi, thanks for the super chat. Thanks for the super chat. It's Sauchi. I am supposed to be Black Manosphere Show of the Week Sunday, right? So I'm gonna be streaming 7 o'clock Eastern time, 6 o'clock Central time, PM, of course. So if y'all want to jump on the panel, definitely, right? Definitely join, and we'll make that a panel discussion, and we'll get into it, right? We'll get into it. But as I said, like, this is the real. It's no longer up for debate. And I welcome all the brothers to come in with the numbers. Better you could come in. We could run through it. Obviously, BGS. Um, you know, all my doctors that want to join my channel, definitely. My panel is always open to the PhDs, from Dr. Thunder to Dr. T to Dr. Ronald Neal to Dr. Green Gorilla, Dr. Dunbar, all the PhDs, right? The almost PhDs, Amiose Frimpong, wherever you are, right? The funky academic, right? Dr. Tia Son Johnson, obviously. If I didn't say his name earlier. Okay, and Sashi says, cool, I'll have the updated figures. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. Right? So now that we know what it really is, y'all share this stream with your loved ones. Timestamp whatever you need a timestamp about what I said or what Dr. Richard Reeves said, right? And I'm after the stream, I'm gonna link. FD signifier is always welcome on my channel. I said that to him before. I extended. Yeah, yeah. FD was going for his PhD at one point. I think he said life happened, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna do this." But yeah, and there you go. Dear left, y'all are gonna have to contend with the fact that elite white men, and this is much of the reason why, and I gotta end out in a minute. This is much of the reason why so many swirlers and divestors sound like racist white men. Because, well, they are. There you go. Because they are. Right? I could really make a. I'm gonna say it. Screw it. You are what you eat. Okay. I was gonna let it go, but I couldn't let it go. You are what you eat. There, I said it again. Right. So now that this is out, now what? So y'all go ahead and timestamp whatever, send it to whoever. Like I said, I'm gonna put the link in the description right after the stream is over, and there you go. Better you. And better use is when you're gonna go back for that for your PhD. Oh man, look, my time right now, bro. Whoo, yeah. If I tell you what life look like right now, right? But on that note, you know, we will. Interesting. What you trying to say? I'm a vagina. No, Trell, I'm not trying to say that. No, I'm not trying to say that. Hysterical. All right. So on that note, we'll pause right here. Mr. Z got to run. Like I said, I'm Black Manosphere Show of the Week Sunday night. So y'all slide through, bring your libations, right? And we will end out there. All right, y'all. Y'all have a great rest of your night. Right? Meats come in last minute. Meats, you gotta catch the replay. You gotta catch the replay, right? So y'all like, share, subscribe, hit the thank you button on the way. Well, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way out, I guess. And if you missed that, hit the thank you button. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah, there you go. Right. Meets, hit the thank you button. Goddamn. And I guess after. And so smoke them if you got them. Yeah, that part. I'm not anti that. I'm not anti that, even though I don't engage. Right. So yeah, let's end out here, and y'all have a great rest of y'all night. If I'm not mistaken, I think Art New Style is streaming. Today is a Friday, right? So y'all go check out other maybe Dr. Thunder streaming too. I'm not sure. So y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content. We will pause right here. Love, peace, and chicken grease. I said that backwards, so now I got to say this part again. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content, for the love of God, because this wasn't Manosphere content, but now it is. And yeah. So we will pause right here, truly, and y'all have a great rest of y'all night. Mr. Z out, right? And y'all like up the stream, All right, everybody.